Mexico continues to suffer from the aftermath of Monday's earthquake.
The question of whether Southern California is ready for the next big one is shaky. See It Live is next. This week's Mexico earthquake has Southern California wondering, can we survive a similar 7.1 earthquake? Good evening, I'm Hannah Wing.
And I'm Brian Redhead. Annenberg Media's Tommy Brooksbank is live at USC Century Apartments, which may be at a risk during a powerful quake. Tommy?
That's right, Brian. We're outside Century Apartments, which is just one of several buildings in and around the USC area that have been determined to be structurally deficient in the event of a large-scale earthquake. Now, this is all coming off an LA County Department of Building Safety study that came out in 2013. It said that more than 1,000 buildings in the Los Angeles area are susceptible to damage in the event of a large-scale earthquake. Now, we spoke to one building official earlier today who told us why he's so worried about buildings like Century.
We've learned a lot of things from the 94 earthquake. We had a lot of problems with soft stories collapsing because those poles, when given lateral forces, had the building's top weight collapse.
Now, Century is one of those soft story buildings he's referring to there, and what they're most worried about are beams like this one. This is holding up the entire building, but during a large-scale earthquake, this beam could break in half, and if that happens, everything you see above me could come crashing down. Now, that's a real problem. There's more than 400 residents that live in this building alone, and I want to bring in two residents that live in this building right now. Their names are Brianna and Sam. First of all, thanks, ladies, for joining me tonight. So, based on everything I just said, what are you most worried about, living in Century right now?
Kind of knowing that I'm paying tuition here. I want to know that I'm safe, and having that not be guaranteed with the old building that is like Century is kind of concerning. Knowing that if an earthquake were to happen, I could possibly not survive. That's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, it's just that added stress. Like, you're here to be a student, but now that you have this added worry of am I going to have a safe place to live is stressful in itself.
Sure.
So we spoke to the USC Department of Fire Safety earlier today, and they said they're renovating a lot of these buildings that are structurally deficient. Have you guys seen anything around about that happening at the building? Have you seen any USC Department of Fire and Safety officials at all?
No, not really.
No, not at all. And we haven't been notified of anything either.
No emails.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for joining me tonight, ladies. And back to you at the desk, Brian.
Thank you for that, Tommy. Rescue efforts are getting even more agonizing in Mexico after this week's deadly 7.1 quake. The quake killed at least 273 people and injured another 2,000, including 21 children. The epicenter of the quake was 35 miles south of the city of Puebla, with severe damage also in the capital, Mexico City. The quake coincidentally occurred on the anniversary of the devastating 1985 Mexico City earthquake.
A lot of the brigades that are happening are actually civilian organized, so it's very exciting. It's very beautiful as well because everybody is getting involved. Yesterday, we actually went to a bunch of different, they call them acopios, which are the collection centers for food and water and medicine and all that, and they were all packed. In fact, a lot of them were turning us away because they had so much food and so many people helping out. So it's very exciting that there's this kind of problem that's I guess a good problem. And I also think it's very important for the international community to know because, as I said, a lot of Mexican civilians, they're being amazing. Everybody's helping out in some way.
News of the earthquake has taken off on social media. Rescue and recovery efforts have now begun to trend as well, but tweets from U.S. politicians are not trending, especially compared to other world politicians. Now, when we take a look at the keywords from the day of the earthquake, we see keywords like prayers, city, and Mexico have been tweeted the most. But when we look at the keywords from the day after the earthquake, we see words like donate, rescue, and help. Now, when we look at the tweets from the course of the 2 days, we see Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying, devastating news from the Mexico City. My thoughts are with those affected by today's earthquake. We see tweets from the tweet of God being tweeted 18,000 times Do not hashtag pray for Mexico, send money. We even see tweets from popular Britney Spears and Drake Bell, but coincidentally enough, we don't see widespread retweets of Donald Trump or any other United States politicians. The unity of Mexican people has taken off across social media. Now the rest of the world is showing their support.
The Los Angeles County Fire Department is out on the front lines again. The elite urban search and rescue team known as California Task Force 2 is in Mexico just days from returning after Hurricane Harvey. Equipped with specially trained canines and state-of-the-art equipment, the group is especially trained for natural disasters. They're planning on being in Mexico for as long as 3 weeks. So how prepared is USC for a major quake? Let's check in with Annenberg Media's Sophie Flay, who has more on today's Emergency Preparedness Fair.
That's right, Hannah. Dozens of students attended the Preparedness Fair today, held by the Department of Fire Safety and Emergency Planning. Here's what we learned.
Squeeze the trigger, right? And squeeze.
The fair included safety equipment vendors and emergency disaster demonstrations to educate students that still feel a little clueless.
I'm from Long Island, and no, we definitely do not have earthquakes there, so I really have no clue what to do if an earthquake ever happens.
I'm from Phoenix. I've never experienced an earthquake before. Didn't even know it was happening when it was happening a couple days ago.
Well, preparedness involves everybody, so it's not just the university, but it's also the personal preparedness for each individual here on campus. Everyone taking responsibility to make sure they know what to do, like drop, cover, and hold in the event of an earthquake. To get away from the buildings and to trees and whatnot, to try to get out in the open the best that you can to avoid any debris that might fall down.
When an earthquake hits, students should expect floods, collapsing buildings, and even fires. While USC has plans in place for an emergency, some students feel that they could do more.
In my freshman dorm, we never really had an earthquake safety drill, for example, and I know from a lot of kids who have taken classes here at USC that some buildings on campus aren't exactly the most earthquake safe.
To prepare for an earthquake, students should pack an emergency kit with the essentials: comfortable shoes, food, water, and a flashlight. If you're interested in helping out on campus, you can get involved by joining the Red Cross or the Emergency Medical Services Club.
EMSC is a student-run EMT service at USC, so there's a very great experience for pre-health and medical students.
To find out more about earthquake preparedness, visit the USC safety page or download the LiveSafe app. Brian?
Thanks for that, Sophie. We asked Annenberg Media's Drew Schweideman to find out how much USC students know about earthquakes.
Not everyone knows what an earthquake is.
The plates shift, in the tectonic plates there's a shift, right?
Or what happens.
I've heard that the ground opens up. I don't know that.
I just heard the buildings fall down, and I think that'd be pretty scary.
But a natural disaster can strike at any moment.
Realistically, an earthquake could come any time, or we might not have a bad earthquake for 50 years. We just don't know the future.
The director of the Southern California Earthquake Center studies local earthquakes, many of which are too small to feel.
And there's, all sizes of earthquakes, little ones to really giant disruptive ones.
What happens during an earthquake depends on the magnitude. Scientists determine the intensity of an earthquake using the Richter scale. An earthquake above a 7.0 magnitude will cause major damage to buildings, potentially even earthquake-resistant buildings. At the California Science Center, visitors can see the damage earthquakes can cause. They can experience it too in an earthquake simulator.
Experts recommend you stop, drop, and hold on during an earthquake, which is what I'm doing now. It's a whole lot of shaking and a whole lot of scary. For Annenberg TV News, I'm Drew Schwendeman.
You've probably heard of a Richter scale, but what exactly is it? The Richter scale measures the magnitude or strength of an earthquake. The scale is numbered 0 to 10, 0 being the lowest magnitude and 10 being the highest. Each increase is 1 unit of the scale represents a 10-fold increase in the strength of an earthquake. In other words, a 6.0 magnitude earthquake is 10 times more powerful than a 5.0 quake. Now to someone who really knows about earthquakes. Sophie Flay is live in the studio with the director of Southern California Earthquake Center, John Vidal. Sophie?
Thanks, Hannah. John Vidali is an expert in earthquakes, earth structure, volcanoes, and the hazards of serious shaking. John, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure.
So let's get down to it. What are some of the misconceptions about earthquakes?
Some of the misconceptions? Well, one is that the biggest earthquakes are the most dangerous. We're probably most likely to be injured or suffer from a small earthquake nearby, small meaning a magnitude 6 or 6.5. There's a lot of faults right under our feet, and they break fairly frequently.
So speaking of breaking, what magnitude would it take for a building, a USC building to collapse?
The USC buildings, I assume, are pretty strong, I hope, since that's where my offices are. Probably a magnitude 6.5 or 7, if we were in the right place, could knock down most any building if it's close enough. The thing about it shaking is it's very uneven. Sometimes it can be a factor 2 or 3 different just from one block to the next. So the patterns of damage are pretty uneven and hard to predict.
So can an aftershock be larger in magnitude than the earthquake itself?
Well, it can, but then we redefine it. Once an aftershock's bigger, we call that the main shock, and the first event the foreshock. So by definition, you actually can't have a bigger aftershock.
Okay, interesting. Well, John, thank you so much for being here. We'll send it back to you, Brian.
Thank you again, Sophie. It's been almost 24 years since the Northridge earthquake produced the strongest recorded ground motions in urban North America. Just before dawn on January 17, 1994, a 6.7 magnitude earthquake hit Southern California, about 20 miles northwest of downtown LA. While the earthquake caused physical damage, the psychological effects on LA residents were long-lasting.
I would say after the Northridge earthquake, because it was such a powerful earthquake, at least for Los Angeles, that we had not experienced for many, many, many years before. The level of trauma, of psychological trauma, traumatic stress, was high across all developmental stages.
Even after the initial shock of an earthquake, the unexpected nature of aftershocks take an additional toll.
We never really quite get back on our feet, and that takes time for those aftershocks to subside and for us to think, okay, you know, the earthquake, there's not going to be another earthquake, because the thing about psychological trauma is we always fear that the traumatic event we experience will recur.
Dr. Wong pointed out that the trauma that follows an earthquake decreases with time.
One of the easiest ways to prepare for an earthquake is to put together an emergency kit. A kit is predominantly made of items you already have in your home. Here are some key things to stock up on: water, a first aid kit, food, a can opener, tape, medicine, a flashlight. Don't forget about batteries, a dust mask, and important documents like birth certificates, passport information, and insurance paperwork, and also a portable phone charger. You should also keep a card with important people's numbers on it in your phone just in case you can't access your contacts. After the earthquake happens, be sure to update your social media pages so your loved ones know that you're safe. It's also important to make sure that you have 3 emergency kits: one for your office or school, one for your car, as well as one for your home. We just have a lot of supplies here today, and it's really important that everyone at home make sure to get it ready and get out there and buy all these items before they're off the shelves.
Yes, you really need to make sure you're keeping up with the water, the Band-Aids. You never know when you're going to be hurt. I remember 2014, I was in a really bad earthquake that demolished basically my entire grandparents' house.
Oh my God.
And so you got to really be careful and really, pack these essentials.
And also to make sure that you have ones for your pets as well. I know I have a little dog at home, and we gotta make sure he has enough water and food and things to keep him safe in times like this, so.
Yes, it's not only humans, pets too. So thank you for watching See It Live from everyone at Annenberg Media. I'm Brian Redhead.
And I'm Hannah Wing. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com.